All right, I'll call the meeting to order. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Supervisor Gail Schincher-Eisenberg.
Here.
Trustee Danielle Rubin.
Here.
Trustee Stephen Mosier.
Here.
Trustee Elliot Robbins.
Here.
And Trustee Kate Cassell McNally.
Here.
And Kate is participating via our remote participation policy, and she does meet the criterion. So she may vote remotely.
And Madam Supervisor, I did want to ask too, is Assessor Jan Churchwell?
I'm here.
Excellent. And Administrator Hopkins?
Here.
Fabulous. And we have guests too. I'll make sure to record that.
Wonderful, thank you. We'll now stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Supervisors report. I didn't take proper notes of my month, but some highlights included some voter registration with legal women voters, teaching junior high kids how to do parliamentary procedure. It was always fun. They order a pizza using Parley Pro. So that's always fun as well. My biggest excitement, I think, was if you recall I believe it was last month, we had a meeting and the National Weather Service had said you probably shouldn't be out on that day. You remember? And I thought to myself, gee, that's not a reason under the Open Meetings Act for us to go remote unless the governor has called an emergency, right? Like just a tornado, not enough. Or thunder, snow, or whatever we want to have. So I contacted Daniel Diddich, who's a former supervisor over in Vernon, who's now a state rep, and it is pending legislation. So hopefully we'll get that fixed in the next year. He does a lot of great OMA FOIA revisions. Have somebody who his legal practice is municipal law, so he knows what he's doing. But importantly, ours. So that will be HB 4898. I believe. Yep. So he's also the reason why we have Kate being able to participate remotely as well, because of his changes last year to OMA. So we keep making it more accessible and less dangerous to be in local government. So we'll make.
So what's the criteria? What's the criteria?
For the emergency weather?
Yeah.
Yeah, we used the emergency weather system as the criteria.
That's enough fun. So, okay, that's cool. I like that.
Yep. So hopefully that works. If it works like last time, they'll end up taking all of the proposed changes to OMA and they'll create some sort of massive bill at the end of the session instead of moving each one separately. So, because there are some other little changes, that are being made. So keep an eye out. I know that our clerk's division is keeping an eye out on the proposed changes as well. I will sure think of other things for the supervisor's report as we go, but for now, I will call that a day. We are now in line for approval of the minutes from the December 12th, 2023 Board of Trustees meeting. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second before discussion.
So seconded.
All right, any discussion?
I'm sorry, is this just a motion as the December minutes?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? December 12th meeting minutes have been approved. We're now turning to the January 9th, 2024 meeting minutes.
Not available.
I don't have,
Not available. It's not available.
Got it. We will table January 9th, 2024. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor of tabling the meeting minutes, January 9th, 2024, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, they are tabled. Clerk's report.
Oh, to the board, I'm very pleased that we have been given a reservation at the Writers Theater in Glencoe for our annual town meeting. And I just,
Wow.
very exciting, and I appreciate Melanie. She did a site visit. You know, ordinarily, I would have loved to have been involved in that as well, but Melanie took care of that for us. We got a very great rate, so I don't know if I should say that aloud or just tell you it was very the best you could get. And so I'm still working on the development of the plans. I know Gail and I are going to talk soon about some of the final ideas, but we're on a good track to have a great meeting. And I also want to tell you how I communicated to numerous people in the Islamic community about your vote last month. And I want to assure you, you made the great choice. When I spoke to so many people before I asked you to move it, and then after, they were very pleased. In fact, they were saying, hey, I know so-and-so, then they live in the township, which just the message that we sent was terrific. But April 16th, and of course, Gail, we checked into video facilities. You'll be able to either pre-record a message. It'll be kind of sweet. And now to our supervisor, like it's Star Trek, or we could have you beamed on live. So, but it's going to be a nice meeting.
Anything you need from the board of trustees, because we'll chat, but for the board. Is there anything you need from the board, Jerome?
No, I think this is kind of my favorite thing to plan, and looking at the pictures behind Stefan of old years past, and I just know it's that we always have a valuable program, something meaningful, and we can gather people and still give the public an opportunity to voice their questions and concerns. So I'm looking for another good one.
Any sense of who we're gonna be looking for our keynote speaker?
I'm still brainstorming with that, and that's why Gail and I are going to conference soon about finalizing.
Fabulous.
Hey, are you interested, Elliot?
No, I mean, I'm talking about a non-township member, like Governor Pritzker, for example. Lieutenant Governor Stratton would be outstanding.
Next year, Elliot, we could have you and Stefan, like, final comments on.
When I complete my service here, I'm available if needed.
And I do have one last suggestion for the board, Gail, and that is, as we finalize awards, some of them we already know, like the peer jury will be awarded this year, and we have some other ideas in mind. But if any of the board members know of somebody in the community that they would like to nominate, please just forward on any names for consideration of that. It's really a special treat to have really nice award winners, and we always have few when we publicize their acknowledgement and their credit, and that's always a highlight. So we're still working on those names too. You will, however, have all this information for the March board meeting because the statute requires we approve the agenda before 1 month at the meeting prior. So you will have all that information, and if any input you'd like to offer would be welcome. It is our 175th annual town meeting. So, and what we're thinking about doing is introducing that idea now and then celebrating throughout the year with certain events to mark 175 years.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim.
All right. Financial report, Mr. Howard. I'll make you.
Hey, everybody. Good evening. Let's walk through our 11-month report. I'm going to share my screen here. And as you can see by the report, we've added our angel fund column just to allow everyone full transparency of what's going on with that entity in addition to the town funds. Again, that's not going to affect the percent of budget column at all, but it will give us an insight as to how the angel fund is doing financially. So we're 92% of the way through our fiscal year, almost done. Property taxes in 2% better than budget at about 3.4 million. Replacement tax 9% better. Interest, that's going to be the real bright spot, about 55,000. We were good stewards by making sure we brought on our investment group to help us with some of those dollars that we had in reserve. Passport fees, that's about more than double than what we thought. And then some small other income, but 3.6 million in total. We've beaten the budget by 3% on the top line. And again, you can see about $8,000 collected in interest in the Angel Fund. That's in gray, in that gray box there. As we look down into expenditures, again, on the far right-hand side, it's going to be in green if it's below 92%, which is where we are in the year, red if we're over. Again, most of these categories coming in under budget, which looks very good. Obviously, still more to do with 1 month to go in terms of our agency programs. They're at 66%. Childcare services, 82. Outside of that, you can see contractual services, 71. We're a little bit over in terms of building town hall expenses on some of those unforeseen needs that we had for the facilities. That's up 14% over budget. And then down in the financial assistance at 84%. Pantry, 5% over. And again, we're looking at getting, using some of that Angel Fund money now as we've met the budget for the year. You can see 40,000 coming from Angel Fund. And then personnel in at 86%, elected officials 92. So all in 2.4 million spent, 3.6 million is the budget. So we're at 67% in total. A nice surplus from revenues over expenditures of about 1.2. Again, 1 month to go, so that'll come down. And again, we started with 1.5, so we're at about 2.8 million in ending fund balance, over 100% fund balance to expenditure ratio. Again, that'll come down with 1 month to go. But I think what's good is that we're aligning our buckets a little bit better in terms of the strategy we set out in the beginning of the year. Budget wise, that is coming true. You see, we are bringing down that GA fund balance to get that under tax objection territory, and then rebuilding some of the fund balance in the town fund. So again, that looks very good. Again, 2.8 million in ending fund balance. Distribution wise, taxes in at 95%, other income 0.1, passports 0.9, interest 1.5, replacement tax 3. Then on the expenditure side, agency at 42, childcare 6, projects 3, contractual 6, assessor 3, building and town hall expenses 6%, financial assistance 11, pantry 5, personnel 16, elected officials 2. Again, all of that revenue pretty much in the pipeline for the year. We're going to see a little bit more trickle in, most likely from our programs. But again, expenditures, we've got 1 month to go. And then in terms of just the detail report, I'm not going to go through this line by line. Most of these below where we are in the year. We're going to always have some over, some under. We can do a line item transfer to self-correct that. But again, nothing too concerning. Is by fund is what draws the flag. We want to be under budget by fund, which we are. So again, that just mirrors what we saw in the summary. Here's our cash position. Again, mirrors fund balance, about 2.8 million across all accounts. BMO paying, anywhere from 3.5 to 2.5. Again, we've rebalanced some of this money to get that extra percentage. I know you see that the town fund has too much right now, and that 5617, we've moved that money to make sure that we rebalance that as the taxes come in. And then down below that, you're going to see what's it with the Angel Fund investments, 293, pretty much mirrors their fund balance as well. Again, that's in gray just to show their holdings. As we wanted to provide that transparency with what's going on with the entity itself. Outside of that, it's just the transactional detail, which again is up for approval, as well as the bank recs towards the latter part of the report here. But that really concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to take any questions from the board.
James, one question regarding the pantry. I'm on page 2 of 9, and I want to make sure I'm reading these line items correctly. We budgeted 115 or so for the pantry. And
110, yep.
110. We actually spent 150. Would that be correct?
Correct, 155 inclusive of the Angel Fund contribution.
Yeah, 155. Okay.
Yep.
And thank you for adding Angel Fund in there. It does help us to know what's going on with that pantry, since it is a combined spend. And I guess that is an important part of the supervisor's report, is that we did have our first meeting with an Angel Fund board. We will continue to make process improvements as we go. So we're meeting again in March, I believe it was. Or was it early April, we decided. Yep. Thank you, appreciate it. Any other
Oh, you're
questions?
welcome.
Concerns?
Jane,
Kate?
This is, I'm not sure if this is a question best directed to James or somebody else. I'm looking on page 8 of 9. Regarding under personnel, the Social Security contribution. We budgeted just under 25,000, and year to date we've paid, you know, almost 32,000. I'm just trying to understand why our budget was so far off.
Very good question. Likely my own math assumptions.
Okay.
Do you have any
Yeah, we
better
can take-
concept, James?
Yeah, I mean, Social Security and Medicare is, 7.65%. That's something that we can look at in next year's budget to make sure that hits. Again, it's probably just a budget that's just a little too low.
Oh, and we haven't moved over Jean's portion. Remember, part of Jean's salary and benefits goes on the GA budget. So we need to move that over still. I don't think that has happened yet. We do that at the very end. So that is likely a big part of it. So hers and also part of Brian's as well. So both the food pantry coordinator and the GA manager, director are paid out of GA.
Okay, so that number is going to change. That Social Security contribution number is going to change within the next month as we do recalculations.
So we get our final report and we've moved the proper amounts onto the GA fund, yes.
All right, so what else besides the Social Security contribution line item is going to change based on that?
The IMRF and the employee health insurance
Staff
And-
salaries too?
and staff salaries, right? Because I don't think we've put anything onto GA yet, have we? Let's take a look at the beginning part.
Thank you.
Yeah. Personnel. We do have some of the salary already. Yes, but it doesn't look like we've done the benefits portion. Yep. Good catch. Anything else looking off to anyone? And again, we got our last checks coming out this month, so you'll see those agency numbers hit to 100% other than Winnetka Youth Organization, which has closed. And you're all invited to come to hand out checks. It's a lot of fun. All right. So do we need to do any GA, do we need to do the GA fund line item transfer then? James, do I need a motion for that, or is that just something we can do?
Yeah, I would prefer a motion just to get it in the minutes for the auditors.
Of course. I'd like to entertain a motion to transfer the portion of benefits attributable to the GA director and the food pantry manager from the town fund to the GA fund. Is there a second?
So moved.
And is there a second? Second. Any additional discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none. Okay, so that's been passed. We're now in line for verification of claims. Trustee Moser.
Before we go, just a quick question. Was there anything else that you were gonna do in terms of line item?
Oh, James, while you're
Sure.
up, don't run away. I hope you haven't gone away. Do we need to do any, because you were mentioning that it's the fund balances, not the actual lines, that we need to make sure that we're within boundaries? Do we need to actually make any transfers, or is this, or no?
You don't need to make transfers given where we lie in terms of our fund totals. So you're not,
Yeah.
it doesn't necessitate a transfer, so You can make transfers as the board sees fit, but at this point, I don't think you need to, in terms of your overall funds and any sort of red flag for the audit. You're in good
I
shape
appreciate that.
in terms of,
Thank you.
totals by fund. Yep.
And unless anyone disagrees, I, would prefer not to. This allows me to see what we actually spent properly because this next month I get to formulate this budget for you all for next time. Wonderful, thank you. All right, now verification of claims.
I move to accept the claims made against the town fund from January 1st, 2024 to January 31st, 2024, as presented to the board this evening, February 13th, 2024.
Is there any, is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion of any of the claims? Seeing none. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll call.
Trustee Rubin,
Yes.
trustee Moser,
Yes.
trustee Robbins,
Yes.
and Supervisor Eisenberg.
Yes.
And Kate, I'm sorry, you understand why because of the
I
online.
also vote yes, thank you.
Yeah. She does get to vote because of the,
Oh,
because of our remote policy was properly revised post
Oh.
last year changes, so.
okay, good. And trustee Cassell McNally.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Remember, so there's a difference between, remote participation. If you don't meet those criteria, then you don't vote. If you do meet the criteria, you do vote. Okay. All right, we are now in line for the assessor's report. Assessor Churchland.
First of all, don't forget to pay your tax bills by March 1st. That's one.
Will you speak up for Mr. Owl?
I can't.
Oh, no.
Sorry.
I can restate that.
Okay.
Pay your taxes, yes.
Yes. Assessor Churchill reminds all of us that taxes need to be paid by the end of February. We have our bills now, we've got them for a couple weeks.
Yes, thank you. And since I can't speak up very well, I will defer the rest of what I was going to say, which was that I was going to write something up about the Board of Review for everyone for next, and I'll do it next month because I would like more eyes on it than merely Len's and mine, on the basis that the people who say, here's what we're doing now and it's wonderful, I would like to get more people saying, is it or is it not?
Mhm.
So that will do it for now.
Okay. And the board should have received a copy of Jan's proposed budget.
And I do have a fresh copy due to the fact that I saw a stupid mechanical error. And also I added like $20 to one item simply to come up with a round number instead of an odd ending number. So that's all. But it's a tiny change.
Thank you.
Oh. And I have Jerome, I'll send you a copy. I had one to give you and Kate as well. I'll email you one.
Jan.
Since it's such a small change, could you just call it out verbally so that I could make it on the hard copy that I have?
At the very top, under personnel, I managed to add 5 and 5 and come up with 11 instead of 10. So change the 1 to a 0.
And I'm sorry if you responded to me via email, but obviously better.
Sorry.
I'm sorry if you responded to my question via email, but since it's important for discussion, what is other?
Other was intended to cover Social Security, IMRF, and Medicare. I simply didn't break them out because they are not broken out in the financial statements every month.
Got it. Okay.
Jan, may I ask, in the version that I have, it notes that both the outreach and communications budget of 1,200 and the Sidwell equipment and contractual services contract for 500 are noted with asterisks as preliminary. That was 2 weeks ago. I was wondering if there are updated numbers as to those.
Yes, that's right. You can remove the outreach asterisk. The Sidwell asterisk is very simply because I haven't heard back from them about what their annual or now contractual arrangements are, since they are apparently entirely online and no longer sending out or offering hard copy directories.
Okay. And how do we compare to other assessors' offices of similar sizes,
For what?
budget-wise?
Low.
Okay.
I would bet.
I see $1,000 for legal fees, Jen, what would that be involved?
That's a placeholder in case I need to get legal advice for anything, or in case anyone should raise a claim that requires me to ask a lawyer or something that I can't ask a board member for some reason. I'm not gonna ask a lot of trustees here. But that's why it's simply, it's a safety measure.
So I remember you guys did kind of a share on deputy assessors with, was it Northfield last year? Did we obtain like some kind of credit for that?
Yeah,
Or-
we still have some. When this was actually, it was in 2022 during the reassessment, which is the only year it's likely to happen. That we get busy enough, we can often use an extra pair of eyes. And so Len said they are much bigger than we are. Len spent in, I want to say in the vicinity maybe of as much as 20 hours, 15 to 20 hours at Northfield. We'd have to look it up because it was like 18 months ago to find out exactly how much it was. And then a year ago in January, their deputy assessor spent the better part of the day here, about 6 hours. So we still have, they still owe, we have credit with them for several hours that we will sort as needed. I doubt it will be used this year at all.
Okay. What was your on it? I applaud the use of resources wisely between the two townships.
Yeah. It's always been done that way. And and one other thing you reminded me of that, we have prepared Northfield Township and I an IGA for sharing of services.
Perfect.
And I merely have to get it back to her. Jerome has signed off on it as clerk. I have to return it, and then it will be done.
We may have to sign off on it as a board.
I do not know whether you have to or not. Alita did get her township's permission, but I can't see, and I mean, I sort of looked it up and I didn't see anything in the statutes or anything I could look at that said it was necessary. If you'd like me to bring a copy, I can do that next time and put that in.
I would, just from my IGA continuing ed class. I believe the answer was, please try to, but they also mentioned that some IGAs are a handshake, so at least that's not it.
The reason that I changed the original version was because it had been written in a very general format. And I just wanted to tailor it so it was strictly between New Trier and Northfield. And also because I noticed as I read through it, there was a lot of it just really sloppily written. And so I tidied it up a lot because things like that drive me crazy.
Of course. Is there any way we can also explore potential sharing during the busy seasons, Niles or?
Oh, sure, anybody. We could do it with anyone. Several of the larger townships have. I wasn't sure whether it would be necessary for us merely because we are so much smaller. But yes, it's an option always.
Okay.
Are Jan's numbers incorporated into this budget that we're looking at?
No, this is for next year's budget.
So so it comes in for next year. Okay, thank you.
So we will approve the budget, including Jan's budget, at a subsequent meeting, because we have to give notice about it. So the next meeting, I'll likely present the budget. The following meeting, we would approve the budget.
Got him. Thank you.
If there's any additional questions for Jan and her proposals. Wonderful. Thank you. Feel better.
Thank you, I feel fine, I'm just trying to be safe for everybody and I don't
Which
have
we
much of a
appreciate.
voice.
Thank you.
Do you have, do you have COVID?
No, I think I just had an ordinary
It's going around.
annoying something or other going around, yeah, but let me.
Okay, next we are in line for discussion of salaries, and of course, my computer turned off, where I have my math. 1 second. Just as a reminder, salaries are to be discussed in open meetings. Performance can be discussed in closed meetings, but need not do so. I have no intention of going into a closed meeting. So, and of course, let's see if this one's too. Hopefully it will open. And it will not open. All right, I'm going to ask that we table salary, and then I will grab it in a moment from downstairs. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we'll come back to salaries. 2 agency allocations. Okay, so in order to be the most efficient with this process, and Steve, thank you for joining, though you do appear to be a cat. I would like to kind of do this in tranches unless there is an objection. I'd like to move to approve all those agencies where there was a recommended 0 change year over year. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Seeing none. Let's call a roll call since it's money.
Right. Trustee Rubin,
Yes.
trustee Moser,
Yes.
trustee Robbins,
Yes.
trustee Cassell McNally,
Yes.
supervisor Eisenberg.
Yes. Next. All right, so now, I think the best is gonna be to go down the line. I'll move for the approval of the recommended 25,000 to Arts of Life. Is there a second?
Second.
All those, any discussion? Seeing none, please call a roll.
Trustee Rubin,
Yes.
trustee Moser,
Yes.
trustee Robbins,
Yes.
trustee Cassell McNally,
Yes.
supervisor Eisenberg.
Yes. All right, Center for Enriched Living. I would move for the approval of the recommended $30,000 allocation. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Trustee Rubin,
Yes.
trustee Moser,
Yes.
trustee Robbins,
Yes.
trustee Cassell McNally,
Yes.
supervisor Eisenberg.
Yes. Okay, Glenkirk Residential Services, this is, the recommendation was for a negative, we're 20% decrease. I will move to accept the recommended $20,000 allocation. Is there a second?
Well, we have 4 categories on Glenkirk.
I'm sorry, I said residential services?
Oh, you want to do them one at a time?
Yes.
Okay, so, second.
All right, discussion. Any discussion? And of course, for the record, this is in recognition of a decreased number of services to our community. Any additional discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Trustee Rubin,
Yes.
trustee Mosier,
Yes.
trustee Robbins,
Yes.
trustee Cassell McNally,
Yes.
supervisor Eisenberg.
Yes. I'll now move for approval of the recommended $40,000 allocation for Glenkirk's Day and Employment Services. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Again, this represents a decrease of 11.1% in recognition of reduced services. Seeing no additional discussion, please call the roll.
Trustee Rubin,
Yes.
trustee Mosier,
Yes.
trustee Robbins,
Yes.
trustee Cassell McNally,
Yes.
and supervisor Eisenberg.
Yes. And do note that because we do have Steve here, do feel free to ask questions of him. And Steve, feel free to raise your tiny Zoom hand or paw in this case, if there's something that I'm misconstruing. I'll now move for the approval of the $5,000 allocation to Glenkirk Respite Services. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Trustee Mosier,
Yes.
trustee Rubin,
Yes.
trustee Cassell McNally,
Yes.
trustee Robbins,
Yes.
and supervisor Eisenberg.
Yes. All right, Jocelyn, I would now move for the approval of the $220,000 allocation as recommended. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Trustee Rubin,
Yes.
trustee Mosier,
Yes.
trustee Robbins,
Yes.
trustee Cassell McNally,
Yes.
and supervisor Eisenberg.
Yes. And this is obviously our acquiescence is a appreciation of the hard work that our committees did in preparing these recommendations. I'll now move for the approval of the recommended $7,500 allocation to NAMI Cook County North Suburban. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Trustee Rubin,
Yes.
trustee Mosier,
Yes.
trustee Robbins,
Yes.
trustee Cassell McNally,
Yes.
and supervisor Eisenberg.
Yes. I'll now move for the approval of $35,000 allocation to Our House as recommended.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Trustee Rubin,
Yes.
trustee Mosier,
Yes.
trustee Cassell McNally,
Yes.
trustee Robbins,
Yes.
supervisor Eisenberg.
Yes. Special Gifts Theater, I move for the approval of the recommended $32,500 allocation.
We're going a little bit
Yeah.
out of order.
Oh, I'm sorry, what did I skip?
Our place.
Oh, I missed our place. Well, I have a motion on the table, so I just talked Harley McPro, so look at that.
I second that.
Can you withdraw your motion?
It's easier to do this. All right, there's a second. Any discussion?
I second the $2,500 increase for special gifts.
Any additional discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Trustee Rubin,
Yes.
trustee Mosier,
Yes.
trustee Robbins,
Yes.
trustee Cassell McNally,
Yes.
and supervisor Eisenberg.
Yes. I will now call for the approval of $145,000 allocation to Our Place as recommended.
Second.
Any additional discussion? Seeing none.
Trustee
please call
Rubin,
roll.
Yes.
trustee Mosier,
Yes.
trustee Robbins,
Yes.
trustee Cassell McNally,
Yes.
supervisor Eisenberg.
Yes. I will now call for I'll now move for the approval of the recommended $42,000 allocation as recommended to thresholds.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
So I think I would just want to add that this reflects that there's a big decrease in the number of Nutria clients that were served from last year. There were 20 clients, And this year there were 12 clients.
Exactly. Thank you for that context. I think it's very important. Still a wonderful organization, but not serving our community to the same extent they were. Any additional discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Trustee Rubin,
Yes.
trustee Mosier,
Yes.
trustee Robbins,
Yes.
trustee Cassell McNally,
Yes.
and supervisor Eisenberg.
Yes. I move for the approval of a $0 allocation to bare necessities as recommended. Is there a second? Seeing none, the motion is not in order. I'll now move for an allocation of $25,000 as recommended to the Cancer Wellness Center. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Trustee-
Seeing none, go ahead.
Trustee Rubin,
Yes.
trustee Mosier,
Yes.
trustee Robbins,
Yes.
trustee Cassell McNally,
Yes.
supervisor Eisenberg.
Yes. Motion carries. And now move for the approval of $43,000 allocation to Glencoe Youth Services Program. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none,
Trustee Rubin,
Yes.
trustee Mosier,
Yes.
trustee Robbins,
Yes.
trustee Cassell McNally,
Yes.
and supervisor Eisenberg.
yes,
Is that, am I reading it right, that they went from, why
from
is that,
38 to
in one
43.
column it's a 13.2% change?
Proposed year over year, so they're
Yeah.
getting what they asked for.
5,000 more than the 38,000.
Right, so that's not a 13.2% reduction.
No, the reductions are negative. If you look on that first page.
Yeah, it's, for some reason, it's in red, even though there isn't a negative.
Right, that's why.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's.
Okay, that's all.
A color coding, not.
Okay, thank you.
All right, and we already approved special needs program. I'll now move for a $5,000 allocation to the Glencoe Youth Services Young Adult PALS program, a new program.
So moved. So seconded.
Any discussion? Seeing none, let's call the roll.
Trustee Rubin,
Yes.
trustee Mosier,
Yes.
trustee Robbins,
Yes.
trustee Cassell McNally,
Yes.
supervisor Eisenberg.
Yes. I move for approval of the $25,000 recommended allocation to Meals at Home, Meals on Wheels, North Suburban. Is there a second?
Didn't we already approve it because it
Yeah.
was a zero?
Oh,
Yeah.
you're right, thank you. That was zero, you're right, got it. That one I will withdraw, since it is moot. Okay, now I move for the approval of the $10,000 recommended allocation for North Shore Senior Center's Escorted Transportation Services new program. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Just note that I've had many conversations with the Senior Center. I do think that this program, despite it being kind of a revamp of a previously free program, is better now that we'll have an actual staff member involved. I am still concerned that we're being asked to fit more of the bill than our neighbor. But I tend to agree with the recommendation, given that they spend more time assessing the issue on the committee. And we'll continue to watch the process.
The numbers.
The numbers. I'm hoping that we'll have a lot of use,
Right.
because it is a very valuable program to our seniors.
We're just kind of seeding it this year and we'll see what they produce.
Exactly. All right, any additional discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Trustee Rubin,
Yes.
trustee Mosier,
Yes.
trustee Robbins,
Yes,
trustee Cassell McNally,
Yes.
and Supervisor Eisenberg.
Yes. I now move for the approval of the $15,000 recommended allocation to North Suburban Legal Aid Clinic. Is there a second?
second,
Any discussion? Seeing none, let's call the roll.
Trustee Rubin,
Yes.
trustee Mosier,
Yes.
trustee Robbins,
yes,
trustee Cassell McNally,
Yes.
Supervisor Eisenberg.
Yes. I move for the approval of the $50,000 recommended allocation to Rebuilding Together. Is there a second?
second,
Any discussion?
Same issue on
Yep. Doesn't need to be read, but we get. Wonderful. Any additional discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Trustee Rubin,
Yes.
trustee Mosier,
yes.
trustee Robbins,
yes,
trustee Cassell McNally,
Yes.
Supervisor Eisenberg.
Yes. I move for the approval of the $56,250 recommended allocation for the Counseling Center of the North Shore. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Trustee Rubin,
Yes.
trustee Mosier,
Yes.
trustee Robbins,
yes,
trustee Cassell McNally,
Yes.
Supervisor Eisenberg.
Yes. All right. I move for the approval of the $19,200 recommended allocation to Erica's Lighthouse. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I'm sorry, Gail, can you say that again?
Erica's Lighthouse, 19,200, an increase of 20%.
is that correct? I thought we weren't gonna,
Oh, yeah, that seems off. Thank you for catching that.
seems off.
So we did have a second. I'm gonna move to table the motion. Is there a second?
The committee only wanted to keep it at 16, so let's table it, second the table.
I know,
Second the table.
that's not right.
Right, it's not.
It's not, and that's not right.
Okay.
So there was a second on the motion to table. All those in favor of tabling the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none. Steve, if you wouldn't mind taking a look at the Erica's Lighthouse line for us. If you can hear me. You can hear me per, that's kidding. Okay, we will take a look at that in a moment.
And,
It's all right, yeah, I'll pull up the notes on my end.
Thank you.
Gail, just going back to the counseling center with the North Shore, there are two errors on what we were given, where it says amount proposed for 2023, 9,000, and then amount approved 2023, 9,000.
Can you please check Counseling Center of the North Shore as well? Thank you. I saw that the 45 was weird, but this, yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
Because that should be 57,500.
Yep. All right, Family Service at Glencoe looks correct. I will move for the approval of the recommended $50,000 allocation to Family Service Center at Glencoe. Is there a second?
Second,
Any discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Trustee Rubin,
Yes.
trustee Mosier,
Yes.
Trustee Robbins,
Yes.
trustee Cassell McNally,
Yes.
Supervisor Eisenberg.
Yes. Family Service Center Wilmette looks correct. I move for approval of the $84,000 allocation to Family Service Center of Wilmette.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Trustee Rubin,
Yes.
trustee Mosher,
Yes.
trustee Robbins,
Yes.
trustee Cassell McNally,
Yes.
Supervisor Eisenberg.
Yes. I now call for the approval. Can you check adult substance abuse treatment as well, Stephen? Sorry, and adolescent. On that one too.
Substance abuse treatment?
It doesn't look right to me.
No.
Something doesn't repeat.
Yep, while we do that,
I think it's correct.
It does look correct. They wanted to
Yeah.
bump it from 5 to 25. Can the committee approve just 700?
Yeah.
oh, great, thank you you have a good recollection. That was an intense request. Okay.
That percent.
I move for the approval of the recommended allocation of $5,750 to Pure Services Adolescent Substance Abuse Treatment Program. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I would just say that one of the reasons given for not giving the amount proposed is the increase was too high. There's a 15% increase to match the 14% increase in expenses. I think we're just trying to get it in more alignment.
That makes sense to me. Thank you. Please call the roll.
Trustee Rubin,
Yes.
trustee Mosher,
Yes.
trustee Robbins,
Yes.
trustee Cassell McNally,
Yes.
Supervisor Eisenberg.
Yes. All right. I move to approve the recommended allocation to Samara Care, $25,000. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Trustee Rubin,
Yes.
trustee Mosher,
Yes.
trustee Robbins,
Yes.
trustee Cassell McNally,
Yes.
Supervisor Eisenberg.
Yes. I move to approve the allocation of $33,000 to Youth Services Pride Program as recommended. Is there a second?
Wait, 33 or 35?
I have 33.
That's for 35, they're getting 33.
Looks like the committee approved the full 35.
Because it says recommended 33,
Mm-hmm.
amount approved 35.
Or 35.
Okay.
We will double check on that one. Move to table Pride. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Hi.
Aye.
All right. Share looks correct. I move to approve the $30,000 recommended allocation to the Youth Services Share Program. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Trustee Rubin,
Yes.
trustee Mosher,
Yes.
trustee Robbins,
Yes.
trustee Cassell McNally,
Yes.
Supervisor Eisenberg.
Yes. Steve, are you ready for us on Counseling Center of the North Shore?
Hey, sorry, Gail. I'm just trying to access through the cloud on my end here, so it's taking a second to load up, but give me just a
Well,
moment.
Yeah, while you're doing that, we're gonna go back to bare necessities.
All right, excellent. Give me just a moment. Thank you.
Is there a motion? Oh, sorry. I will not put my own motion back on the table. Are there any motions related to bare necessities?
I move we give them something.
Can we be more specific?
Not without a discussion. I move to allocate $2,500 for bare necessities.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion.
It's an organization. They don't have a lot of people in the township, but they do have 4 families in the township. And I think that, I know the committee had pretty strong feelings about it, as did the chair, that they had big funding elsewhere. And so I think for those reasons, they decided, and somebody else said they didn't quite understand what they did. I think given all of those considerations, my gut on it was it's a good organization doing something worthwhile for kids of parents with cancer. And so I would recommend that we give them something.
And I would agree with that. And I would add that one of our other agencies, AmeriCare, either has a partnership with or refers some of its clients to Bare Necessities. So there is that connection with another agency that we fund. Just working for another wish organization, I have seen the power of a wish. It really can improve a child, a family's mental health, which in turn can improve their physical health. So I would, while I agree that 10,000 is much too much, I would be on board with the 2,500 because it has served clients in Wilmette or in the township.
Stefan, did the committee consider funding them in a lower amount?
Not really, it was pretty absolute, to be honest.
Was it a unanimous vote in favor?
I don't think it was unanimous. I don't remember, Ellie, to be honest, but I don't think it was unanimous. I wouldn't have voted for it, but I don't vote in that context.
I would just say in terms of my input is that I defer to both you and to Danielle's comments, and I would be on board with, and apparently they do serve some kids in the township.
4 families.
So I'd be on board with the 2,500.
Any additional discussion? Steve, do you feel that we've addressed the concerns the committee had?
Yeah, no, you guys summarized it pretty well. And I will say from my own personal experience of listening to them and the willingness of her to take the train from downtown all the way to testify and, explain, they sound like a great organization. It's just, logistically speaking, I feel like the committee, spoke for itself, the amount of people they were serving and what they were asking for. I feel like, it is what it is. They are a great organization, and I hope they do well in the future, but I agree with the committee's recommendations.
And how would you, Steve, what would you say in your letter to them in order to encourage them to stick around and to do better? And how would you frame it? What do they need to do to get a more significant amount of funding?
So what I would personally recommend is in the next year, obviously, I mentioned this before in the different committee meetings, we're always looking for different ways of impact that the agency partners have in the township. So previous metrics you may have overlooked based on the way we were analyzing the units of service and, the way we were previously analyzing, how they serve the community. So what I was thinking is if they do come back in the next year and, what I hear when I'm trying to pitch other agencies, if they want to, apply for funding is that if there are things that, previously you may not have seen in the metrics before, but you do in the community that may not have counted before, like go ahead and mention those. And also they're clearly a growing organization. So it's possible in the future that they'll just serve more residents of New Trier Township just by growing on their own. And obviously everyone on the committee was impressed with them, and I'm sure they'll mention it to people around them and that they know that they're a good organization in that case. By word of mouth alone, I'm sure they're going to hear it. So if they come back to the next year and they can show that, hey, since we've come back the last time, the metrics have improved, then obviously that'd be something the committee worth hearing, right? it's, largely from a metrics perspective, I feel like that's where the committee was coming from. So if they come back and say it's quadrupled in the last year, I feel like that would be something that they would be considered. Double, tripled, depending on whatever the need is and whatever the situation is. If they make a compelling case and the committee wants to go for it, then by all means.
Stefan, one last question for you. How do you think the committee will receive our overriding their vote on this?
Not great.
Okay.
You asked. I felt like I was a jury of one during the discussions. I did, to be honest, but
Okay.
I was. So that's the way it is.
And we don't do it often. But I think I can support you and Danielle both made some excellent arguments.
The township's money.
I will say that my concern is on our criterion proportion of township residents served.
Yeah, we give a lot more money to certain groups who have a similar number of residents.
Not number, but of those that they're serving, we're a small proportion.
Oh, okay.
Four families, but do you know what that represented in terms of the numbers?
It was like a 1% or something. It was very small.
The concern that underlied that guideline was always, we are meant to ensure local services and local services agencies thrive, and address those hyper, local focused issues. And the examples were, we've had national organizations come in and say, give us money as well. We serve 4 families in the township. We serve X number in the township. And while certainly, the opportunity costs of filling out our beautiful form should keep that down relatively low, I'm afraid of the precedent we set.
Could another way to look at this particular situation here is more of a seeding type of a situation? Because again, it's their first year. They're serving 4 families. We have, with the power of the pen, we can really incent them to do a lot more. If they want to come back and dip in again and try to, I think there's something to be said for that. We have the ability with seeding them only at 25% of what they're asking for to possibly get them to be a bigger contributor over the next 12 months and to really render wonderful services to our community. But again, they've got 4 families and this is their first time. And I think if they have the School for the Blind, similar situation. But
The
if we look
Hadley
at,
School was around the corner, right?
and we funded them once and then they couldn't.
And they said it wasn't worth filling out the paper. Okay.
So there's a seeding aspect to this agency too.
Any additional discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll. And the motion was for $2,500.
Correct.
Trustee Rubin,
Yes.
trustee Mosier,
Yes.
trustee Robbins,
Yes.
trustee Cassell McNally,
Yes.
supervisor Eisenberg.
No. Motion carries. Okay. All right, Steve, you ready for us?
Which one?
Yeah, so I'm getting the spreadsheets pulled up on mine here that have the file numbers, and I'm also sharing them with Larisha, so she should be able to hopefully pull them up on our end here just to double check and confirm.
Okay.
Let me know if you're able to get it soon. It's taking a second here to get through verification.
We're looking,
So is
for-
I'm
this-
glad that means you have your 2-step verification.
If we're looking at counseling center for the North Shore, it looks like the same thing that we have on this spreadsheet. What did they actually get approved for?
Per the Mental Health Committee agency review notes, which we had when Rich Drake presented last month, it looks like the committee was in favor of the full 57.5 asked for.
Okay,
So where did this
It's just-
56 come from?
and it's off in that column.
they're all off because.
Yeah, it's off, the whole column is off.
Doesn't add up. 56.
Well, yeah, I'm looking at the notes and it said it was recommended to allocate 56,250, which would keep them at the same level as other agencies that provide the same service. But then it says the committee was in favor of the full amount of 57,500.
But it's hard to say what they asked for. Did they
Well,
ask?
that I can find easy.
Yeah, that's,
Counseling.
Yeah, 57.
I guess if they did 57.5 and then the committee brought them in at 15.
I just left that board last year, so I think.
They proposed 57,500.
Correct.
Did they ask for 57.5,
Yep.
Steve?
Yeah, I'm looking at their proposal right now.
And it looks like the committee was in favor of the full amount.
So why is the recommended here 56,250?
I think it's a mistake.
Is it typo?
Well, it would be if the amount
Well,
received.
no, Jan had some information.
All I said was that since I was on that board, I paid attention to
I
the
would-
discussion a bit. I'm not on the board this year, but I just left last June. And the committee was very strongly and came out very strongly in favor of, allocating whatever amount it was that the center had asked for. And I recalled, just in my head, I didn't remember the 500, but there was a figure of 57 plus in my head.
Okay.
And
And
I
that
have-
certainly
I have-
comports with the notes that we
and I
have.
have last month's minutes in my office, if you can't pull them up fast enough, not minutes, a list of all the
Right.
work.
Danielle had a reference to
Right, exactly.
56,250.
Okay. All right. And just for the record, I have not received any conflict of interest disclosures from any board members that required us to disclose, or in general. Okay, so I now move for the approval of the $57,500 allocation as recommended by the committee to the Counseling Center for North Shore.
Second.
Any additional discussion?
I think we should clarify it before we vote on it, because there are tapes of everything. It's impossible to do, and I would hate to see us allocate more than the committee approved just because we did.
What if we were to change the motion to subject to verification? We vote in
That'd be
favor of
okay.
it, subject to verification, something along those lines, and then you and Stephen can get together and double check.
Absolutely.
Come on.
Alright, is that a motion to amend?
A motion to amend, that we approve the 57,500, which we believe the counseling center asked for, subject to verification by Stephen of his notes and his documents.
It's not what they asked for, it's what the committee
It's what the
recommended.
What the committee recommended, that,
It
the committee recommended
full
what
amount.
the agency asked for, yes,
Yes.
something along those lines.
You got that, Jerome?
He says, yeah. All right, and was there a second on the motion to amend?
I'll second that.
Okay, all those in favor of the amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any discussion? Seeing none, the current motion on the floor is to approve the 57,500 subject to verification to the Counseling Center of the North Shore, correct?
Correct.
All right, I'll call the question, Mr. Clerk.
Trustee Rubin,
Yes.
trustee Mosier,
Yes.
trustee Robbins,
Yes,
trustee Cassell McNally,
Yes.
supervisor Eisenberg.
Yes. Okay, I am now looking at Erica's Lighthouse. Did we confirm Erica's Lighthouse numbers? Can you go get your notes, Danielle, since you have them in front of you?
So let's see. Agency requested increased from 16 to 20,000. Let's see, what else? Committee was in favor of and approved 16,000 for Erica's Lighthouse.
So that's in zero,
So no change.
so no change. Again, so I'm confused as to why these numbers, those two numbers were so off.
Sorry, I'm looking at this now. It may have been a formatting issue in the spreadsheets that were sent over, so my apologies on that one. But Erica's Lighthouse is a confirmed $16,000.
Got it, okay. Well, then that is a $0 change and therefore it was a part of that first motion. So I'm gonna consider that to have been already addressed. Okay. I think the only one left was
Pride.
Youth Services Pride Program.
It says that, is that a part of YWCA?
No,
YMCA?
Youth Services of Glenview, yeah. Yeah.
35,000 to Pride according to the committee chair's presentation last
Okay,
year,
and they had asked for 35.
and 30,000 to share.
So they recommend, they actually did ask, recommend 30 for that or 33?
Said 35.
30, the committee recommended the full 30 that Cher asked for, the full 35 that
That
Pride
Pride
asked
asked for.
Okay, so that should be 35 as well. Okay. I move for the approval of the $35,000 recommended by the committee to Youth Services Pride Program,
for. Subject to verification.
subject to verification. Is there a second?
Second,
Any additional discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Trustee Rubin,
Yes.
trustee Mosier,
Yes.
trustee Robbins,
yes.
Ms. McCoy,
Yes.
Supervisor Eisenberg.
Yes. And did I do share when we did the first time? I didn't mark it off.
Yes.
I did, great, thank you. I thought so. Okay, please take a quick look at your notes, make sure I hit everything. I'm pretty sure we did.
Did we discuss pickles
Ah, where's Pickles? Tell me where they
in
are.
life stages?
Which one, Daniel?
Pickles?
We already approved it.
It was a $0 change, so we approved it in that first motion.
Okay.
Was there a discussion you wanted to have on that? I'm not suggesting there should be, I just was wondering.
Right, sorry. Give me 1 second.
I'm not sure that's right, but you're right. Couldn't think of it.
Yeah,
Let's take a look there.
okay.
I mean, one of the ways we kind of voted on things was that theoretically, even though nothing was changed, a committee chair might have an issue, but I know very little about pickles. They're pretty new, aren't they?
Yeah.
This is their second year.
Yeah, I've never seen them.
They let the kids name it.
I thought they gave them full allocation.
It is definitely not what they asked for, but it's a 0 over year.
Right.
Primarily serve Wilmette residents, the committee stated that they would revisit the possibility of an increase in the following funding cycle. There was a recommendation to increase the amount, but not the requested amount. However, the committee voted in favor of remaining at the 15,000 allocation.
Okay. Any additional discussion?
No.
Seeing none, thank you all for indulging me on parliamentary procedure. I'd like to lay back on the table the discussion and approval of fiscal year 25 salaries. Is there a second?
Second,
All those in favor, please say aye.
Hi.
aye.
All right, guys have it. I would like to propose a 3% across the board increase to the salaries other than Brian Leveren's. At this time, with Brian Leveren's going to $45,000 budget to account for additional hours in his part-time schedule.
What's 35 currently?
Yes. Is there a second? is no second. Is
I'm
there
so
a-
sorry. Did you not hear me? I said second.
Oh, great. Discussion.
The 3% Gail was arrived at how?
General practice, sadly, not a better system. Yeah,
Inflation,
we did a
Supervisor.
large, right sizing last year. So I felt that a more regular increase was in line this year.
and how do you feel that'll be received by the employees?
I mean, I assume some will want even higher, increase. We've obviously made we have much more than salary offered here. But I would hope that people appreciate a raise.
And I would characterize it as a cost of living raise as opposed to any kind of merit raise, so
Right.
that that's on the
It's
table.
not addressed, it's not attached to particular performance. Everyone was satisfactory. Certainly, there are areas for all staff improvements. I don't think anybody was, perfect, if you will. And anyone who would like to, discuss further, we can. But obviously, like I said, we can go into closed session to discuss performances. I didn't think anything merited a deviation from an across the board increase.
And what was the increase last year?
It was very different. We did, everybody was right sizing their salaries except for 3% for Jean,
Okay.
because she would already been at the higher
So we were
echelons.
coming out of COVID with yeoman's work. And we're kind of in a situation here where there's pretty major transition. We're demanding a lot more of people and so on. Is it inappropriate for me to ask Larisha, since she's here, if that'll be well received?
It's not inappropriate, go ahead.
I have some opinions. I mean, I manage these people, so, it may be well received, maybe not well received. I mean, for me, personally speaking, my salary was lower when I was here for almost 8 years than some of the employees are now. And I have been here, their salaries are higher than mine was when I left my administrative assistant position. I'm on the lower end of the township administrators like salaries, but that's also coming from a lower salary, in which at that time I felt like my salary should have been higher. So I'm grateful for the increases, that I've had thus far. It's just hard to kind of measure, you know what I'm saying? So I'm in a good spot right now. I mean, who doesn't want to make more money?
If I had unlimited money, sure,
Yeah.
right? But I would have tax dollars and, every dollar spent is a dollar not spent somewhere else. So I want to be fair to the staff and I want to retain the staff while recognizing our fiduciary status.
And Gail, one last question for you. How does this 3% increase compare to other townships if we were able to access that?
I looked at some of our neighboring townships. Obviously, they are much larger. Niles's budget is double our size, right? So it was hard for me to apples it. Some of them are also high from previous administrations. Like we had the opposite issue, ours were too low and we brought them up to the point where I believe they would prefer them to not be that high. So not necessarily something we should be looking at that were kind of left over from, patronage of years past. And we don't want to emulate. So it was difficult, but I did look at our neighbors to see where we were. And definitely last year was my number one comparison. Yes.
Just something to mention, and you'll remember this, Gail and Stefan, you too, that from previous boards of trustees, they occasionally, they would haggle over 2.5% or 3% or 3.5%. So to come across with a flat organized figure, it seems to me to be a very, sensible organization for it, because everybody then is the same and there's no kind of, well, he said, he should, and she should kind of thing.
And And what about a comparison if one was done with other municipal entities in the township, like the villages?
You know, I did not go with other municipal entities. I only looked at townships. Obviously, it's our, you know, our employer pool. People might look at them as well. So that is a good place to look. I do think it's different. Our focus is entirely social services. So I do think it's a little bit different versus kind of like a business in some of these villages.
My sense is that 3% is definitely in line with reality, especially coming off pretty good increases last year. You know, I think in terms of 2.5 to 5, somewhere in that range there, with three being not unreasonable, and I don't know how other folks feel about it.
I'm sorry, may I just ask Larisha, very generally, and obviously not getting into specifics, do you feel, having gone through the review process, that people will understand their areas for growth and improvement over the course of the next year with the background knowledge that personnel files and the review processes in years past have been somewhat lacking?
Or I would say for the most part, yes.
And we did have every staff member sign their review to, you know, they've seen it. Certainly some had difference of opinion, which is, you know, as you all know, I'm an employment lawyer. It does occur. And yes, so there are some clear areas for growth that we will hopefully be working on with everyone.
I hear from so many people that work for companies that review them regularly, you know, how about nobody really exceeded the average or the middle, and that to me is just so shocking. Every entity, whether it's a municipal entity or a private company, has got to have some employees that are exceeding, but there seems to be
My clients were always exceeding.
your client, but I mean, there seems to be. I mean, the whole notion, I think, of reviewing is maybe skewed in some way where people are not told they're doing really as well as they are, because that would be a disincentive, it's thought, from.
It's a good point. Yes,
Yeah.
you don't, yeah, you're right. You want to have a growth mindset, so.
And you know that from being in the trenches and dealing with it first.
Yes.
I have
So
a
I do
different-
appreciate your work on that matter, yeah.
Is Brian's workload like 25% greater than he anticipated?
Yes, we had anticipated him not working on Friday.
Okay,
We found that untenable.
gotcha.
So that is actually a very good question. Yes, that is why we're asking for the increase. It did not work with our small staff. So he's still doing reduced hours, but not the amount of reduction he would have preferred. If you all recall, we had anticipated him retiring this year. He has told us he anticipates working another year. So we will, otherwise I would have been putting out a call for applications to this month, this last month, but now we have moved that process on. Yep. Anything else on that?
No, I think really the exceeds expectations is subjective. You know, there are things that I think I might exceed in and Gail might not, or my employees think that they exceed in things that I might not. But I think that our review process, especially from us coming from not doing it at all, has been a good opportunity for everybody to openly speak. They read my suggestions, me and Gail chime in, they get a chance to speak. So it's a mutual process about growth. Did you actually grow from last year? Or, you know,
Thank you, Larisha. Thank you.
we're always pushing the growth factor here,
Right.
so.
And I have encouraged educational opportunities to try to bring people to the next level, right? Yes, anything else on that? With that said, do you think we need a roll call clerk, Mr. Clerk?
I'm sure we should.
We should. All right, so please call the roll.
Trustee Rubin,
Yes.
trustee Mosier,
Yes,
trustee Robbins,
Yes.
Trustee Cassell McNally,
Yes.
Supervisor Eisenberg.
Yes. Okay. We've received staff reports from our fabulous staff.
Gail, can I just comment, please?
Please.
I want to say in 14 years listening to the approval process, the vote on the approvals, I applaud you for doing it one by one, because one thing I would brag to my students or the residents is that your township board and the committee system reviews carefully, and it was reflected in what you just did. So anyone could go online then and see, and I'll record all the votes, but I just, great idea. I know it might have seemed repetitive to do the poll, but honestly, great, that's a great move, because that's why local government works so well, because it serves, and especially since those agencies serve our four elderly youth, disabled, and mental health. It's just brilliant. And I want to congratulate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you all for indulging me. All right, is there anything anyone wants to pull from any of the reports from our staff for discussion?
I wanted to pull out from Brian's report, the ongoing issue, with getting the Greater Chicago Food Depository to, respond and to get us through their process. I want to know how I can help. As a trustee, I feel like this has been a long and drawn out process, and I'm ready to go to bat at this point. So, can somebody let me know how to direct that energy once you talk to him tomorrow at the board, at the staff meeting?
Thank you. And I will say that Commissioner Britton has been extremely helpful on this. Prior to my complaining to him about this process going on, I believe after Wellness Fair, so there you go, very useful. We hadn't even been able to get them to respond to email. And now we have paperwork, we are anticipating being able to participate in the senior program. It's just a matter of getting it set up. I'm a little bit more positive than Brian seems to be in here. But I appreciate that, because that is top of my priority list, has been getting us involved with the Greater Chicago Food Depository. Yep. Anything else anyone wants to pull for discussion? Oh no, over Amazon. Did Amazon give us back our jars of tomato sauce?
I think that Brian's working on that, so we do get some of the stuff from the wish list.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit trickier to get refund off of the wish list, because people are paying for it and shipping it to us. So, we would be happy if they would just send us the same product. I actually asked for the plastic jars, because we don't have good luck with the glass ever. It's always broken when it gets here. And I had to have the cleaners clean the floor last week because we had tomato sauce on the floor.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Anything else for discussion? Community support grants, I do want to note that we did receive, I received an update right before the meeting, saying that we did have the exact same number of eligible grant applications as the year before, so 240 community support grants, and Gina's recommending a $1,400 grant again this next year, which is in line exactly the same as last year, and I would tend to agree. So unless I hear anything otherwise, that's already in our budget. Any discussion?
One of the things I'd be curious about is it the exact same applicants, or did we lose a few and gain a few? Because if it's the exact same applicants, I'm wondering if we're sufficiently getting the word out that these are available.
My understanding it was different.
I feel like we should squeeze that time a little bit. It's like 5 months that people get to apply
That's a
for
really
the
good
community
point.
support grant. It's long. The agency process is only 30 days. The community support grants, yes, it's a lot more of them, but it's 5 months
That's a really
that
good
people
point.
get to apply. And I think that from a work standpoint, Jean having to take all of these applications, I would really like to see that process be revamped. Taking in all of these applications, then having to look at all of them, it just doesn't seem efficient. And it's a lot for one person to do. I wish that there would be some kind of way to get a couple of different sets of eyes on the community support grants to make the process better. half of them were online and half of them were paper. So, we're really trying to do away with the whole paper thing. So, people get a ton of time to turn that in, like I said, and I think we need to squeeze that time down a little bit more.
We've been working very closely with Civic Plus on digitizing all their forms, because a lot of June's job, we've been entering in all the information that was on these documents, which is
Yeah.
unnecessary. So we, for those half, we were able to then export the data, with some handling. But we have received pretty united feedback that we have to always continue to offer paper as an alternative, because we do have significant number of people who don't have regular access, because obviously our libraries are access.
But are you suggesting, Larisha, that because it's spread out over 5 months instead of all coming in 1 month, that the net amount of time that Jean has to spend is even greater?
Right, the applications it came in on January 19th. Jean is still working on it because it's such a large project. And a lot of it is data entry. Actually, I don't know how she's approving the applications, if she's doing them when she gets them. If she's doing them, we get a ton at the very last minute. It opens in September and it closes in January. In my opinion, that's always been too long. Especially because we get over 150 of them in January. I largely feel from looking at that spreadsheet that a lot of those people are the same. And like I said, it might just be helpful to have a couple of sets of eyes, somebody else designated. Although, yes, Jean's eye is trained to say, okay, this person has whatever the diagnosis is. It's not efficient the way that it's going right now.
Well, yeah.
We probably should get a report from Jean, because I've got a number of questions. I mean, if they all came in a short window, she'd still maybe have the same number of hours that she'd have to spend on. If we reduce the window, but that suggests to me like we don't want as many grants, and I'm assuming that the ones that are approved are all worthy. I'm also interested in how many are being rejected. So is it the same group of people? Are we getting new people? If we're not getting new people, then we're not advertising it as well as we should be. If we're getting, if those people can't get, I mean, if they all came in a very short window, Larisha, I think that the work could be overwhelming, and then somebody would need to assist Jeannie with those. There's a bunch of questions there.
Yeah, that's a good point. When she's all set, I think we should have a discussion about process improvement on community support grants, which, it's already getting better, but continuing to do so. I would favor certainly ending the deadline earlier. One of the things I did ask her to implement this year was getting the checks out before the end of the fiscal year, because we were having trouble closing our books in a timely manner because people weren't cashing them for months, right? So it was a problem.
Does that make sense? But you need this money and then you sit on the check for months. I mean,
It
doesn't
happens
add up.
every year.
Every year.
Keep some of the people in trouble, though, and that's
Yeah.
part of the different trouble.
There's a lot, yeah.
They don't.
I wish I could just ACH and tell everybody.
But if you spend the time and energy to fill out the
Right, it's a lot of work.
and you qualify and need the money, and then you finally get the money, and then to sit on it for months, it doesn't.
It does happen. So yes, maybe moving it back. Not saying that she has to, do all the work. I know that her concern is always going to be that Christmas is a lot.
Well, that's another thing.
So
If we stop pushing it past Christmas, we don't have to worry about Christmas. It's just been famously getting longer and longer and longer after Christmas. People have to come back in town and all of that
you're
stuff.
saying ended even before Thanksgiving.
Yes, or at least by December 1st. Because our holiday programming is always gonna be so busy.
That's a good point. It's already open on September.
Look, if I want some money, I'm gonna apply in the window that people want me to do it in, right? So, it's also just about accountability.
Yep. Thank you. Anything else from the staff reports for discussion? Do note that we are co-sponsoring an event on February 27th. When the road stops here, related to the buses of refugees that are showing up in the township, with various entities throughout our community. And this is inspired by the work that Jean's been doing with our social workers, the police social workers. She's been on the forefront of responding to those issues.
Have they shown up in Winnetka too, proper?
Yes,
Wilmette?
much more in Wilmette. Yeah, Wilmette's almost at least weekly at this point. And they get zero notice. So Winnetka did pass an ordinance requiring them to actually tell them when they're coming. So maybe that's why they're not coming.
Or what?
A fine,
Okay.
Yeah.
Wilmette's not finding.
they are not currently, but many other municipalities are passing these ordinances.
Now, I heard today, and this might have been NPR or something, where the buses have stopped coming to Chicago, at least for the time being. We haven't had any.
I mean, we had one on Wednesday.
We did have one on
Wilmette.
that? Okay.
Yeah, I brought them Girl Scout cookies.
That's one way to get rid of the darn thing.
But
No, I just had careful Girl Scout cookies, so I had to give it to them.
maybe what I heard is that the amount of people we have in the facility downtown in Chicago is less than it's been in a long time. The numbers might be.
I can't verify. All I do know is that, remember, they were gonna do the kick-out process after 60 days in a shelter.
Okay.
So I'd be nervous if that would be one of the reasons why you're seeing a decreased number. Yeah. Because I was downtown today and
You can't walk around downtown without seeing at least one mom and a child, if not two, out of every corner in the loop.
Yep.
Sometimes
They're not
out of the street, yeah, with M&Ms.
Does anybody have the front of the
It's gotta be
bylaws?
somewhere.
Or do you have it?
I had it, so it is.
I have the signature sheet.
That's all that came to me.
I had it a moment ago, so where did it go?
Is it?
It's in one of these two spots. Okay, so that's it, all right. Continuing business, non-new business. We've received a proposed resolution for our 457B deferred compensation plan. All right, so our policy manual allows us to adopt a deferred comp plan. It would be completely voluntary for the staff, but another opportunity for additional retirement savings. Are there any questions on that?
So the township has no,
Currently does not have, at least to my knowledge.
no, that was my question. The township is not making any contributions.
No,
These are strictly employees putting into a fund established by the township.
exactly, just an opportunity.
And does it vest immediately, 100%? Is there a variable, do
It's
you
all
know?
downstairs. I would have to go grab it downstairs.
It's potentially a nice benefit for our employees, and there's no additional cost to us.
Right.
There's a lot of attachments. I emailed them to everybody. Some of them are like 18 to 20 pages.
Right, every
The
The
individual.
total number is 101 pages.
Yes.
So, I mean, every individual is gonna have to make their own decision if it's right for them, and completely up to them, on that.
Is there a desire for it amongst our employees?
It was just, I was reading through and like, we don't have one of those. So it's really not an option. While I was redoing the policy manual, that was already there. It said can adopt if should want. And I was like, all right. To be honest, I was discussing the second resolution, which sadly I don't think is on our agenda, so I'm not sure we can take any action on. But the second resolution is related to right, this one's the one about
Healthcare funding plan?
healthcare funding plan. Yeah, sorry, healthcare funding plan versus the 457 is the one we are voting on. The healthcare funding plan was when I was meeting with someone about, because this can help us to save for healthcare retirement using our public salaries. essentially.
Again, at no additional cost to the
At no
township.
additional cost. One thing that was explained to me though on that is that each tranche of public officials has to make their decision together. So unlike the 457B, which is completely individual, you as trustees would have to decide if you're going to do the plan. I as a supervisor decide, Jan as the assessor decides. So it's by title. I don't know why.
But it's only for the benefit of employees, it's not for the benefit of any elected officials.
No, that would be the second resolution that you have. This would be for the elected officials.
I only have one.
Gail, I gotta break in. I'm really confused here because there seem to be two different things. There's one page resolution that's about the 457 that was in the board packet that was originally distributed. Then at 9:30 this morning, we received emails from Larisha that are entitled 457 plan attachments. However, each one of the 7 attachments refers to the resolution 115 plan, which is the retirement healthcare funding plan. So what are we voting on?
We are only in line to discuss the 457B, the deferred compensation plan.
So where are the backup documents for this one page resolution that I'm looking at?
And if they didn't get
I don't
signed,
have backup for
Okay.
this.
then I would prefer to table the resolution then.
Both of them.
Yes. All those, is there a second?
So seconded.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
May I ask to be included then in getting backup documents for either of them?
Is that what I sent
If I
this
have
morning that
a
ties to
decision
this?
as well.
Apparently that was for the healthcare one versus the,
Was she supposed to send me something else?
she must have not.
Because, yeah, I sent everybody what Debbie sent me this morning, so we might
Not a
just be
big, we're
missing.
not on a schedule.
Okay.
So, to my knowledge.
I'll have it tomorrow.
Exactly.
For
Yeah. All right. Appointment of township attorney for fiscal year 25. Based on the presentations, and my conversations one-on-one, I would like to recommend that I would like to appoint Ross Seckler, of Odelson, Stirk, Murphy, Frazier, and McGrath to the township attorney position for FY 25. Is there additional discussion?
I was hoping you would choose Russ. I thought he made a great presentation. He's, I think, $55 an hour more reasonable than the Ansel great presentation, which was also quite good. And Ross just seemed, he seemed a little bit quirky, but he seemed so sharp and he seemed so flexible and so willing to work with us. He just seemed like the natural choice.
You're not quirky?
Well, most attorneys are a little quirky.
It works.
Yeah. And he seemed to provide really good value too. I mean, 195 an hour, is that correct, Gail?
I believe so.
Yeah, Tom, right?
Yeah, that's a very fair and reasonable rate for his expertise in the area.
Any additional advice from the board?
Gail, if I can ask, what was your persuading factor? I appreciated all the presentations. I think one of the things about Ansel Glink, if I pronounce it correct, is just that they were the author of the township handbook.
Absolutely.
Let's see what else. They represent 70 to 80 townships.
It was certainly tough, and obviously, and I appreciate Jim's work with us over the years as well. The deciding factor was recommendations.
Okay.
So.
And Ansel's maybe even a little big, a little bigger, maybe a little bureaucratic. And just Ross, I had the sense that we were gonna get a lot of personal attention. And that he'd be really receptive to working with Gail and others here too. And the value was, Ansel was a good 55 an hour more, which was also a factor as well. When you have two really good people, and Jim was good, and he provided years of wonderful service. And but I think it's good to start with something, somebody new sometimes. Take a fresh look.
Absolutely.
And I liked Ross's bow tie. It was
Which is apparently going to be a constant, so we're great.
Good.
In his profile photo. All right, wonderful. So that appointment shall stand. Okay. Next, I would like to move that we move our previously approved August 13th, 2024 meeting to August 20th, 2024. This is for personal travels. It's not a particularly good reason, so it is what it is. Is there a second?
Second.
So,
Any discussion?
I probably won't be in town for either date, so.
For personal reasons.
So actually, this brings up an interesting point then, because I won't either
For
So if-
either day?
for either day. So if we
Okay.
have pressing business that's gonna require voting,
It's a very good point. Okay, 1, 2, 3. We would need all three of us, and we would have to be unanimous.
August 20th. You want to move it to August 20th?
That is the plan, and I would need both Elliot and Danielle to make sure they're there.
I think I'm gonna be on vacation downtown.
Okay.
I
You think you will, or?
I think I will be in town.
Okay, Danielle, we've got school starting, so.
Right. I think I'll be here unless I'm moving Max into Tulane. I
So-
don't know that calendar yet.
And I may be here.
Okay.
No,
So I think what we, I would keep my motion on the floor for the switch, and if it doesn't work, there had been a tradition of the township not doing all summer.
Right.
I don't particularly love that because we have all these beautiful, things to sign and approve. But it probably wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, right?
And if someone's domestically out of town, that they could still qualify for the basis to participate.
So the remote policy does not allow for participation unless if you meet one of the criterion, and vacation
Is
is
not.
not on the list.
But does
even
that
if
make
you
sense?
appear remote.
Even if you appear remotely, and we
If you've
still need
done-
to have a quorum in person.
Does that make sense? But if someone's done the
Oh, it
work,
does.
and good,
Yeah.
it does.
That's not something I can change unilaterally, that's the limits of OMA. Where our policy is as flexible as allowed by current law.
It reinforces that when you're on vacation, you're on vacation.
It's a good point, yeah.
As a lawyer, that's never true.
Absolutely.
For many professionals, it's not true.
I once settled a case, well, like essentially in a Barbie dream house. Anyway, so.
I drafted documents while in labor. So yeah, we're all there.
I don't support that. Okay, but it is what it is, so,
So you're moving it to the 20th at this point.
yes, and it might very well get canceled, so.
Right.
Any additional discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, move to August 20th. And part of that was also, I've never run a meeting remote other than during the COVID emergencies, right? So even if, I wanted to participate and not vote, I'm not sure about the running of the meeting portion, right? So that was my concern.
Aren't you gonna be at the township meeting in April?
I will be in Springfield for a separate meeting and we'll try to double dip.
You can participate virtually with the township.
So that is important. So our meeting is on the 16th, right? Township Officials of Illinois Lobby Day is the 17th. I'm there that whole week. So yes, the intention is to do some of the lobbying on these OMA issues, and also Northfield is pushing for an ethics office for township officials that I'm also supporting.
Or we'll you and Gail.
Hmm?
Even if that's with you.
Absolutely. Any additional new business?
Yeah, when are we doing Shred Day?
Oh, Shred
April
Day.
20th.
April 20th.
Yay.
And it's not just shred this year. We will also have electronics, recycling, and prescriptions. Yeah.
At
And
Regina
that's
Dominican?
With the sheriff's office at Regina, yeah.
Awesome.
What even more exciting is this mobile DMV activity. These are all very exciting, but if you guys look on the communications, so she can put it on here. When is the mobile DMV event?
I believe it's in May.
In May. So the Secretary of State's office will have an outpost here for the day, and you can get your real ID. So I'm really excited about that.
What ID?
Real ID, to be able to use your ID to get on a plane. Remember they keep on moving that back? And now they're like, for serious, we're gonna put it into action. Yep.
In lieu of your driver's license, or you'll still be able to use it?
No, you can't use a regular driver's license.
You have to have that star in the corner now
You
too.
can,
So is
You
that
can
something
still
we
use your
want to add to
passport.
your,
Yes, it's on your driver's license.
Yes. All right, so you'll need to make an appointment. All right.
Gail, do we
we're
know
not-
how much we made from the Lou Malnati's fundraiser yet?
We don't. Once we get those numbers, we shall share. I certainly helped.
Did you do it?
participate. It was delicious, it was delicious night, yeah. So. I got some good shares, so we'll find out. All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
so moved.
Seconded?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Well done. Thank you all.